Hello everybody, I am Keaton of Kinetic Catholic Ministries, back with another video. I am home for fall break, which I'm super blessed about. Next video we'll have some of the Kinetic team in. I want to know your guys' thoughts on that, right? Kind of the Kinetic team that we got going on so far, which is a team of us college students at Franciscan University, instead of just myself in videos. I think there's a fruitfulness to it. I think it's good. I am curious your guys' thoughts, your guys' opinions. So please let me know in the comments down below. And then I am also a Catholic speaker, so being in college has not prevented me from doing that. I've still been blessed to go and do that. So if you want to book me to come and speak, for honestly, comparatively to other speakers, fairly cheap, then reach out at kineticcatholicministries@gmail.com, and we can work out details from there. Or go to the website, kineticcatholicministries.com, click the Contact Us page, and reach out to me from there. And we will be able to come up with some details. What I want to talk about today is something that I think I can give kind of an interesting perspective on. I want to emphasize now, right, that like when I make these videos that are just myself, there's a very good chance that other people on the Kinetic team may disagree, right? They may have different experiences with it, and that's okay. And then we touched on it a little bit last week in our Advice to High Schoolers video. But the idea of having non-Catholic friends, surrounding yourself with people who are not Catholic. For me, the reason that I feel called to make a video on this is because that was my case throughout most of high school, and obviously going to college, going to a Catholic university, that has changed completely, and so now I find myself surrounded by a Catholic friend group that is able to keep you accountable to a greater degree within your prayer life, within what you believe, and the pluses and minuses that go hand in hand with both. I think we hear all the time the reality that we need good Catholic friends to bring us closer to Christ, to allow us to have that community of surrounding ourselves with people who think like us, and that is completely true. I do think it is. I'm not going to sit here and negate that. I think that it's very, very important to have Catholic friends. Sometimes, though, that's hard to find. Like, to be completely transparent, sometimes it is really, really difficult to find a group of good Catholic friends. I've been blessed with kind of the ease in that at my college, right? But not everybody is going to have that. And myself, for a very long time, I did not have that. I had Catholic friends, obviously, but my main friend group, the closest people in my life, were, and kind of still are, not Catholic, right? And so there's that difficulty, and that handling that, and that understanding how do we balance maintaining our own faith life while not putting down others, while still loving other people. It's an interesting concept. It's a very, very interesting thing. So number one, absolutely, Catholic friends are needed. Absolutely. Like being able to see peers of yours grow closer to God and have that kind of own spiritual journey for themselves. It shows you by example, right? Number one, lets you know you're not the only one. Number two, you're able to remain accountable. You're able to remain in your faith life more than feeling like you're the odd one out. And so that is absolutely a blessing. So it may be difficult. I would encourage absolutely get involved in parish life, absolutely get involved in a youth group, whatever it might be, right? Finding those people, even if it's not your main friend group, even if you're still mostly close with non-Catholic people, still finding those people that share your faith, that share the true faith, is really, really important. Number two, what do you do if that's really difficult, right? If the closest people in your life are not Catholic. Number one, I think that's okay. I do. I think that it requires a lot of strength to stay strong and steady in your faith, because there's a balance of God calls us not to judge, right? He calls us not to judge other individuals, not to condemn other individuals, but to journey with them. And so if there's someone close to us who isn't Catholic, we have to understand that there's still a lot of goodness in that person. You can still love the person. You need to. And absolutely, you can still find God in those people, right? Like God, just because someone doesn't believe in God doesn't mean God hasn't worked in their life. Just because someone doesn't believe in God doesn't mean God hasn't worked in their life. God works in everybody's life, right? They might not be able to see it, but He has. He very much has. And so there's a truth there that surpasses all other truth, right? God is real, whether a person believes it or not. And so, number one, we just have to understand that when we're surrounding ourselves with non-Catholics. Like, God exists. The Catholic Church is the true church. Doesn't matter if this person believes it or not. Like, that's just how it is. But there's the other side of seeing the goodness in the person. Seeing God in other people is something that, as Catholics, we are called to do. We have to understand that God created everybody in His image and likeness, that His plan for everybody is to get to the eternal kingdom of heaven, is to become a saint, even if that person is not Catholic. That's still the plan God has for his or her life. And so if we go out and we condemn and we're just like friends with people, but they're not Catholic, like what are we doing? You know what I mean? What are we doing? Like we are not answering God's call to lead others by example, to journey with them. Because, yeah, absolutely, we want everybody to become Catholic. But if we just go in thinking that we're going to give a homily to everybody we meet who isn't Catholic, and that'll get them, that oftentimes can just drive people away. God calls us to journey with people. God calls us to walk with people, to lead by example, to hear them, to listen. The road to Emmaus, right, is a great example of this. When Jesus talks to those people, he celebrates the liturgy. He doesn't, it's after his resurrection, right? He doesn't just sit and come and preach to them right away. First, he listens. And that's the case with anybody in our own life. Even if they're not a friend, we have to listen. And we have to hear what they have to say because their thoughts, their opinions, their emotions are valid. Even if they're not correct, right? And that's the change. I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place. I think the bottom line is that if we ourselves have a strong foundation of faith, we know that we won't waver, which we need, right? I mean, we need that to have people who are not Catholic close to us. Then I think that there's a fruitfulness to having people who aren't Catholic close to you, close within your own life. If you are able to recognize that you're called to journey with them, to not judge them, to not condemn them, to love them, there's a both and, right? There's kind of this idea that either you approve of their beliefs and then you love them, or you judge them and you condemn them. And that's not true, right? Like love, a lack of condemning does not equal approval, right? We shouldn't approve their beliefs. We shouldn't say that they are correct. They're not, right? We know that as Catholics, we are the true religion. Anybody outside the Catholic faith who believes otherwise, like, they aren't right? Like, they aren't correct. But that doesn't mean we need to condemn them, judge them, hate them, or that doesn't mean that needs to be the first thing that comes out of our mouth when we meet them. Because that only drives them further and further away from Christ. We are to be their example of a Catholic within their life. Maybe God has put them in our life for a reason. Maybe God has put us in their life for a reason, right? God has a greater plan, and his plan for everybody is to get to the eternal kingdom of heaven, and so that's where the balance comes in. Yeah, they are not correct. We should not approve of their beliefs, but that doesn't mean that we should condemn them or see them any differently. They are still created in God's image and likeness. They are still worthy of love. They still have the capacity to love. Even though they may not know where that love comes from, we as Catholics obviously know it comes from Christ. They still have the ability to, and there's still a goodness in them, and you're still able to see God in them. And so there's that fine line. There's just that balance, and it drives me up a wall whenever people think that it's one or the other. It doesn't have to be, right? It doesn't have to be approval and therefore love, or condemnment and therefore hate. No, like it doesn't have to be either, and it drives me so crazy whenever that's a notion that's out there. It requires love. It requires so much love. And ultimately, that's the love that Christ shows, right? Christ showed anybody, even his non-followers, love. And that isn't to say that there isn't truth. That isn't to say that we shouldn't judge other people's actions. We can judge other people's actions, absolutely. We can't judge the person, but we can judge their actions. And that's not to say that all truth is subjective, or that, oh, it's just love. But it's a truth also. And so I think that for our own life, whether you're watching this in high school, whether you're older, whether you're younger, number one, understand, try to find those Catholic friends. It's very, very important. I've been blessed to find that to a greater degree since college. So it isn't to say I had zero before. I absolutely had some, but it was not my main source of people, right? And so I think that was okay. I think that there was a fruitfulness to that. But I think that now there's definitely a fruitfulness to surrounding yourself with Catholic people close to your life. And that isn't to say that anybody non-Catholic has left my life. That's not true, right? And that's okay too. And so it's really that both and mentality that we need to approach within the faith, that I think most things should be approached with, instead of an either or mentality. And so when I get that question all the time, like, oh, is it okay to have non-Catholic friends? It's like, yeah. What do we think? Are we gonna only be friends with Catholics, right? Like, it's okay too. There's a fruitfulness to that. But that doesn't mean we should approve of that. That doesn't mean we should approve of them or their beliefs, right? Like, no. Like, it can be both and. And so, by all means, have friends that aren't Catholic. But try to find some Catholic friends too, right? Be both and that's okay. And if you have any further questions, leave them in the comments below. And myself or any Kinetic team member, maybe with a different perspective or with another perspective, is happy to respond. I know that I've been kind of all over the place, but I really, really just felt called to give this video. I feel like someone needs to hear it, even if it's just one person that it impacts. Because sometimes we can feel like we're at a crossroads, right? Am I surrounding myself with good people? And that isn't to say that any friend you make is going to be good for you, right? Maybe there's a Catholic friend that you have that maybe isn't a good influence for you. And maybe there's a non-Catholic friend that you have that really isn't a good influence for you. And that's okay. And that's a situational, and that's a person-by-person basis. And that's up for you to evaluate and pray about and bring to God and ask Him, is this someone who is worth keeping in my life? And then maybe the answer is no, and you can love them from a distance, right? Loving everybody doesn't mean we have to be everybody's best friend. It doesn't mean we have to go and want to have a coffee with everybody, but it does mean we have to love them, right? And then there's that difference too. And so this isn't to say with the both-and mentality of it's good to have Catholic friends, it's good to have non-Catholic friends. That isn't to say, there are friends who are bad influences, but it's okay to have them. Like, no, like at that point we need to recognize that. And that's, again, situational, person by person basis. And so I know, again, I've jumped all over the place. It's a pretty thrown together video, and I apologize, but I did genuinely, like, I'm being serious when I say it, I did feel called on my heart to when I was praying about what to talk about, to bring this forward. And because I feel that this is something that needs addressing, because a lot of young Catholics find themselves at a crossroads regarding it. So now that the topic is done, do y'all know what it is time for now? It's time for
the Saint of the Week!
Guys, it's been a while since we've done Saint of the Week. And I have one, don't worry, but we're going to do something a little bit different for this Saint of the Week. So basically, the Feast of All Saints last week, right? We didn't really talk about that with our video advice to high schoolers, which is okay, right? Like, I've made videos on the Feast of All Saints and Halloween in general before, right? Which, by the way, I hope you guys had a great Halloween, a great All Saints and All Souls Day, a blessed one. Which is what the holiday's for, by the way. Halloween is an afterthought. It technically comes before, but it's an afterthought, okay? But what I want to do for this Saint of the Week is look at all the saints. And what I mean by that is I think it ties into this episode greatly, right? We're talking about surrounding ourselves with Catholic people, the fruitfulness of that, how it's still okay to have non-Catholic friends, finding the balance when it comes to that. Guys, it may sound crazy, but unironically, all the saints in communion with us, right, are kind of our Catholic friends, right? They are able to. They are able to become it. It depends on our prayer life. People talk about their patron saint all the time, right? Or your confirmation saint. That's someone who you pray through. We don't pray to the saints. We don't worship the saints. We ask them to pray for us. They intercede for us. And it makes a sense because they're in heaven, right? So obviously them praying for us, they're literally right there with God. Yeah, God is here on earth in the Eucharist, and we can pray to Him anytime. There's a specialness to asking a friend to pray for you, in the same way that there's a specialness to asking a saint to pray for you. And so the saints being very much alive in the kingdom of heaven, they are alive, right? Heaven is eternal life. We are called to ask them to pray for us, to ask them to intercede for us. And therefore, we are drawn to maybe some more than others. We have ones we feel we are closer with more than others, and as a result, we have some that we may talk to more than others. And that's okay. That's not worship, right? That's not calling them God. That's acknowledging they are alive in the kingdom of heaven. So absolutely, they'd be able to hear us, right? They are able to hear us. And in that way, there's a specialness there. That maybe we're in a situation where it's really difficult to find Catholic friends. Maybe we go to a public school and our main friend group isn't Catholic, and then maybe our youth group we just don't really blend with, and maybe it's really, really hard. The good news is there are saints, right? And there are so many that there are some that we may relate to more than others. Some of my patrons are St. Clare of Assisi and St. Mary Magdalene. Blessed Bartolo Longo is fantastic. He's another patron of mine. St. Tarcisius is another patron of mine. Those of you who may have heard me speak have probably heard his story. I say his story a lot. It's beautiful. It's a really, really beautiful one. And what I do is I don't just sit and talk about these saints, or I don't just sit here and be like, oh, I think they're cool. But I'm able to ask them to pray for me when I have really difficult moments. When I feel maybe like I am struggling to pray right now. Maybe I feel like I'm struggling to talk to God right now. Let me ask St. Tarcisius to pray for me. Let me come to St. Mary Magdalene and ask her to pray for me. Right? There's a fruitfulness there. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh yeah, I'm great, I pray all the time, 24/7, I'm so much above you guys. That's not what I'm trying to say. That's not what I'm trying to say by any means. But I use it as an example. I oftentimes don't like to sit here and divulge the specifics of my own personal prayer life. I like to keep a lot of that private. But I bring that up as an example because I think it's really, really beautiful. There's a beauty to that. There's a beauty to that, absolutely. And something that all Catholics should be doing. And so, with All Saints Day happening and looking at the importance of the saints, it's important we understand, yeah, they can be our friends. Which sounds kind of crazy, but it's true, right? It's true, because they are in communion with us. They are a part of His church. The church that we are members of, right? So absolutely they are to be our friends. And if we feel like we're struggling finding Catholic friends, well, there we go. Even if we don't, though. We don't have to be struggling to find Catholic friends to become friends with them. It sounds crazy, but it's so, so true. That isn't to say that they're God. That isn't to say that they are above God. No, no, no. But it is to say there's a specialness to that, right? They achieve the ultimate goal of getting to the eternal kingdom of heaven, something that we are all striving for. Why wouldn't we want to be friends with someone who has achieved literally the goal that we are living day in and day out to achieve? And growing closer to Christ in doing so. So, thank you all so much for watching. Once again, I'm not just a YouTuber, I'm also a Catholic speaker, so if you want to book me to come and speak your church, school, men's group, women's group, youth group, conference, parish, wherever it may be, please do reach out to me, right? Like, I would love to. I'm at kineticcatholicministries@gmail.com. Or go to kineticcatholicministries.com, click the Contact Us page, reach out to me from there. All my videos are on the website, so please do go check that out. Please let me know what you think of this team of college students that we got going now, the Kinetic team, to make all this content together. Please check out all 3 of our social medias, Facebook, no, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, right? Yeah, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, the link to all 3 of those will be in the description down below, and please comment and say your topic suggestions that you might have for future videos. Please like the video, please click the red subscribe button down below, and the bell next to it, that way you get notified when we come out with a new video. Your very own Kinetic merch is on the website, by the way, so please do go check that out. This was Keaton of Kinetic Catholic Ministries. I'll see you all next week, and hi Brielle.